Are you tough enough? That's a good question. And it's a question I get a lot from mentees. And when I say tough, physically tough can help, but mentally tough is what's really important in this business acquisition building business. You will face a lot of rejection, you will face some setbacks. Hopefully you will have a success and a bunch of successes along the way. But I wanted to give you some examples of mental toughness and not quitting and keeping on and eventually being successful. So I wrote down a bunch of those examples. First, I want to talk twice at the beginning and at the end about Napoleon Hill. And Napoleon Hill, in his book Think and Grow Rich, said, "Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit." There's an important word in there, seed. It doesn't mean that you're guaranteed, but it gives you the opportunity to do something better. And if you think back on the toughest things you've been through, most of the time you will look back on those and say, something good came out of that. You got better, you survived it and taught yourself how tough you were, etc., etc. So I wrote down a few examples of people who I think exemplified that, so let me go through that. Michael Jordan, if you don't know who he is, one of the greatest U.S. basketball players of all times. He was cut from his high school basketball team, and he went home, he locked himself in his room, he cried, then he kept going. He was a 6-time NBA champion, 5-time NBA MVP, and a 4-time NBA All-Star. Pretty good for not saying, I'm no good at this, I was cut from the team, okay? This person, who you'll know this name, was demoted from being a news anchor because, quote, she wasn't fit for television. That was Oprah Winfrey. Did pretty well for herself. At 30 years old, he left devastated and depressed after being unceremoniously removed from the company he started. You know who that is? Steve Jobs. Did pretty well for himself as well. His first book was rejected by 27 publishers, but he became the best-selling children's author in history. That was Dr. Seuss. And then, lastly, a couple of thoughts. One, this person's fiance died. He failed in business, had a nervous breakdown, was defeated in 8 elections, and that was Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of the United States. So if you've never failed, you've never tried anything new. And I would maybe write that down as an affirmation for you. But the one I wanted to read to you from Napoleon Hill to end this was in his book, The Law of Success. Everybody knows about Think and Grow Rich. There was a much bigger book, The Law of Success, that he wrote. And in that, he said, "I am convinced that failure is nature's plan through which she hurdle jumps men of destiny, men and women, and prepares them to do their work. Failure is nature's great crucible in which she burns the dross from the human heart and so purifies the metal of the man that it can stand the test of hard usage. We would cease to fear or run away from trying experiences if we observed from the biographies of men of destiny that nearly every one of them was sorely tried and run through the mill of merciless experience before they quote-unquote arrived. This leads me to wonder if the hand of fate does not test the metal of which we are made in various and sundry ways before placing great responsibility upon our shoulder." I don't know if it's fate, but I can tell you that if you look at those people who are successful, almost all of them had that experience. Doesn't matter who you pick. I don't know if I can pick to one person that said, geez, everything came together, super successful. Most of them were run through the mill of ruthless experiences before they arrived, as he said there. So think about that. Realize that this is hard. Realize that you will have setbacks. But for those people that keep going, the odds of them getting to where they want to get to are much, much better than those that run into a tough situation and either stop or pause or procrastinate what you find too is if you think about a couple of things, I think it'll help you. One, if everybody was tough enough, this process would be a lot harder. So thank yourself for that you are willing to go through what other people aren't willing to go through. And in my early days, which were pretty dark days financially at times, I used to say to myself, this will be a great part of the story later on. And I've used some of those experiences later on. So realize this is tough. Know what to do. If you don't know what to do, you don't know how to do it, there's a lot of ways to learn it, but you can certainly go over to brucewhipple.com and learn in the boot camp what the lessons are. Group coaching, things like that will help you. But think about and maybe do an affirmation. I am tough enough to get through this process. So I hope you think about that. I hope you put it into action. And I hope to hear from you if you're looking to do this and looking for some help along the way.